Hi everyone, today's video is a much more lengthy one. If you've been a fan of Baseball by the Yard, you probably noticed that just about all my videos, and I have almost 200 of them right now. Most of them are all in that 3 to 5 minute range where I teach a little basic skill to players and coaches and parents all over the game of baseball. Today's video is a little different. It's a lot longer because it involves a very serious topic that middle infielders especially have to be aware of. This stems from something that came up and got considerable amount of debate around baseball in the National League Division Series between the Dodgers and the Mets. If you were watching that series, Chase Utley'd went into second base really hard against the Mets shortstop Wilmer Flores, and Flores' leg happened to be broken on the play. Well, as I said, that touched off a major debate all over baseball as to was that a legal slide, was it dirty, what constituted a dirty slide. And so this video is an attempt to do two things. First off, part one is going to get into what are the 6 ways that a slide can cross the line and become a dirty slide. The second part is a very important part where I'm really speaking to middle infielders and their teammates and even their coaches to try to teach them all the things that they can do out there on the field to protect themselves against any type of a runner who is either sliding legally or illegally, and hopefully they can be much more protected if they follow these basic rules. So there's a lot of content in today's video, which is why it is much longer, and I'm doing it in this format because I think it's important enough to do so. Now, one of the criticisms I might get from this is from coaches or players who say, well, coach, I don't play at the professional level. I'm in high school or I'm in Little League, and the rules are pretty clear. The runners have to slide directly into the base. So why should I learn all this other fancy stuff to protect myself? Because if the guy does break the rules on a slide, he's going to immediately be out and might even be thrown out of the game. So why should I learn this stuff? Well, anytime I talk to middle infielders, one of my main points of emphasis when it comes to turning double plays is that they have to be responsible for their own safety. The umpires are going to call the game. The coaches are going to teach their players to do things or not do things, but it's ultimately up to the player to keep themselves safe. And as a middle infielder myself, I never wanted to assume that runner was going to follow the rules. Hopefully he does, but that's out of my hands. He may not have ever been taught how to slide. He might just get caught up in the moment and want to break up that double play and just, act on emotion. Either way, I have to put myself in a position where I can be as safe as possible. Once I assume that runner is going to slide legally, quite often I will put myself in a very dangerous situation. So all the content here today is for coaches, for parents, and especially for middle infielders and their teammates to try to help themselves prepare for a situation that might cause a serious injury like the one we saw on TV. Okay, so that's an overview of the video, so let's get to it. We're going to start off with an explanation of the 6 ways that a slide can cross the line and become a dirty slide. Reason number 1 why a slide can cross the line and become dirty is that the runner is too far from the bag. In professional baseball, the runner is allowed to veer off to one side or the other on the slide as long as his hand can reach over and touch the bag. So if I'm sliding on the ground and I'm this far from the bag, I'm going to be okay because my arm can touch the bag. So if a runner is too far away and cannot reach the bag, then obviously he is not attempting to touch the bag. He is clearly going after the fielder. The second way a slide can cross over into that dirty area is when spikes come up high. Now, when runners slide, they should be taught to keep their spikes down so that when they slide into the bag, they can pop up or go through the bag. But a dirty slide is one where when the runner hits the ground, his spikes come up in the air. And basically, the general rule is keep it below the knee. If the spikes are below the knees, then that's going to be considered pretty much okay. Clearly, the runner does not want to dig his spikes in the ground because he may twist an ankle as a result. So he's got to keep them off the ground a little bit in order to slide, but as long as he's keeping them below the knees, it's generally going to be considered okay. Once those spikes start to come up above the knees, then we're talking into that dirty range where that runner clearly is trying to spike that middle infielder. The next way is when a runner purposely tries to make contact with the fielder beyond the bag. So if the camera angle here is the baseline between first base and second base, and a second baseman is positioned behind the bag, and the runner slides in and makes contact with the fielder on the back side of the bag, that's when you're crossing into that dirty zone. One of the mistakes, as I'll talk about later, is a lot of young middle infielders will put at least one leg in the baseline. And of course, if that is the case, then the runner clearly is going to hit that ankle or that knee, and that's when the fielder is going to be exposed to some possible danger. So if the fielder is behind the bag and contact is made, that's when you can get on that runner. He should not be crossing over that bag. He should be using that bag as a barrier between him and the fielder. Now the fourth way a slide can cross over into the dirty side is actually the reason why I thought Chase Utley's slide did cross over into that dirty range. So far, I think he was protected based on the reasons that I mentioned earlier. But rule number 4 is the runner should always hit the ground and slide into the fielder if he's going to make contact with the fielder legally. The problem that Chase Utley made is his first contact was not with the ground, or at least he contacted Wilmer Flores at the same time he was hitting the ground. And that's where you got into people calling that slide more of a block or a tackle, because Chase Utley, the first contact he made was with the fielder and not the ground. You can really get a lot of leeway in terms of getting far away from the bag and even making contact with the fielder at the professional level. As long as you hit the ground first and slide into the fielder, that's going to be considered okay. But if you slide into the fielder and your first contact is with the fielder instead of the ground, that's when I think you're clearly going after that middle infielder. If you hit that ground, it's going to stop your momentum a little bit, and it does provide a little safety for that middle infielder. Chase Utley didn't do it on that play, so I think this is the biggest reason why Chase Utley was highly criticized for his slide. The fifth reason is a runner who slides and then rolls. Okay, so he comes in, he slides, and instead of popping up, he kind of comes up and then turns it into a roll in order to take out the legs of the fielder. It's considered pretty much okay if the fielder slides in feet first like normal and contact is made, as long as that contact is below the knee like I mentioned before. But if a normal feet first slide turns into a roll by the runner to try to take out the legs of the fielder, especially behind the bag, that's when they're crossing into that dirty range. Now the sixth reason that a slide can become a dirty slide is a situation where the runner should know that there is no chance that the fielder is going to be turning a double play. So a situation like that is maybe the third baseman, ball's hit to the third baseman, and so the second baseman comes to the bag. Third baseman may bobble it, may drop it, may bobble it, and then makes the throw to second base. Clearly, based on the time of the situation, the second baseman is not going to attempt to turn a double play. And what you'll often see in that case is the second baseman really changes his footwork to almost become a first baseman. He will stretch out and try to make the force out at second base, knowing that, hey, this is going to be a close play. I'm not even going to worry about the one at first base. So if a second baseman crosses over and is really just trying to get the force at second base, that should be a message to that runner. No double play is going to occur, and so I don't have to be as aggressive when I come into second base and try to take out the fielder. I probably have a better chance of just beating the throw by sliding into second base if the throw is being delayed. So if a second baseman or a shortstop is set up like a first baseman because he realizes I'm just going to get the out at second base, runners should not be sliding and making much contact with that fielder, because really it's just a force play. It's not a double play. Okay, so those are the 6 ways that I think, in my opinion, a normal slide can cross over into a dirty one. Next up for us is part 2, and that's where I'm going to get into a lot of the nuts and bolts for middle infielders, for teammates, and even their coaches on how to prepare themselves and how to do the footwork and all the nuts and bolts involved with turning double plays in a safe manner so that no matter what the runner does, you will be much more safe than you normally would be. Okay, so part 1 was about the explanation as to why a slide might cross into a dirty slide. Part 2 here is going to get into the prevention of what specifically middle infielders should be doing on their double plays. I'm also going to talk about some of the things their teammates can do, as well as some of the things their coaches can do. So we're really going to get into the nuts and bolts. So first up, we're going to talk about something that is going to be apparent for middle infielders especially, and involves getting to the bag fast. Okay, first thing up is playing double play depth. Now, I wrote a post about this a while back. Basically, double play depth is cheating a little bit in terms of getting a little closer to the bag in double play situations. So if I'm a shortstop, the basic rule is I'm going to take 2 steps towards the batter and 2 steps over towards second base. And that is going to be pretty good double play depth for me as a shortstop. Of course, the second baseman is going to do the same thing. Take 2 steps towards the field, the hitter, and then 2 steps over towards second base. And that is generally speaking going to be a good double play depth. Now, double play depth involves getting to the bag sooner. Of course, you're giving up something. You're not going to cover as much ground, but you are going to be able to get to the bag sooner. The quicker you can set your feet and get to the bag, the less chance that runner is going to get to you, because you're going to be able to set your feet and do the footwork I'm going to show you in a little bit. And if you can do that and set up properly, quite often the threat of injury goes down just because of that. The second tip for middle infielders is actually tips for any fielders who are making that throw to second base. It involves getting the ball to second base as fast as you can. If I'm a shortstop and a ball's hit to me and I'm going to be throwing to second base, I want to make sure my feeds are quick and I get that middle infielder the ball as fast as I can. The quicker he gets the ball, the quicker he's going to be able to get rid of it. And of course, you're not giving that runner more time to get to second base. If I'm lazy or I'm late getting the ball out of my glove, I'm just allowing that runner to cut the distance between first base and my fielder. So that goes for anybody on the field, even if it's a catcher or a pitcher, a first baseman, a third baseman, even the middle infielders giving feeds. Anybody who is throwing the ball to second base, get the ball to second base as fast as you can. Now, this is where middle infielders have to communicate, because some second basemen like to receive that throw behind the bag. Some shortstops like to receive it a little bit on their left side. That's where people have to talk and let people know, listen, get me the ball as fast as you can, and also here is exactly where I want you to put it. So quick, accurate feeds is going to go a long way to make sure your middle infielders are protected. Okay, the next tip, and this is a big one for middle infielders, is get the heck out of the baseline. Now on the ground here, I put some markers here to represent kind of the sliding lane that a runner may slide in. It's a little bit off to the left and right, but pretty much if a guy slides in this lane, it's not going to be considered a problem. So as a middle infielder, I have to make sure that I am not in that lane. And so here's how you do it. First off, I'll start as a shortstop. When I come to the bag, my footwork should be such so that when I get to the bag, my hands are up and my right foot is behind the bag. It's either on the bag, touching it with my toes, or slightly behind it. Now, my next step is to make sure I cross over with my left foot in order to catch the ball on this side of the bag. If I can do that, then I will pretty much assure myself that I will not be in that baseline. If I cross over in front and I catch the ball and turn, you can see I am not in that sliding lane. Shortstops get themselves in trouble when they catch the ball directly over the bag, meaning they don't step across the bag to get the ball comes to them, either because they haven't learned the footwork or they may have been late getting to the bag, and the ball meets the glove at the same time they get to the bag. So this is where, again, that previous message to middle infielders is get to the bag early so that you can do your proper footwork. And in this case, this is one of the footwork techniques that I'm talking about for shortstops, making sure you get across the bag, making that catch over here instead of on top of the bag. Because if I do catch the ball here, I'm going to be quick to turn, and then you can see my feet. I'm right in that baseline for that runner to hit me. Now, even if he is sliding illegally, if my foot is in that baseline, I'm going to get spiked. Okay? He's not doing anything wrong. He's just sliding directly in the bag. It's my mistake for being in that baseline. Now, second baseman, you have a little more leeway in terms of how you want to turn a double play. One of the big methods you'll see on TV is a lot of second basemen want to protect themselves as much as possible, and you will see them set up behind second base because they are using this bag as a barrier between themselves and that runner. And so quite often they will tell their teammates, their shortstops and their third baseman, when you give me a feed, make sure you give that feed to me behind the bag. Don't put it over the bag, and hopefully, even a bit more important, don't put it over here, because that's going to put me right in line with that runner. Okay? So one of the methods second basemen can use is get to the bag early, put their left foot on the bag, and position themselves facing the guy who's throwing them the baseball, and position their bodies so that they're on the outfield part of second base. Now when I catch and throw, I am in line with the runner, but that base is in front of me. And quite often, the runner will not come on this side of the bag to make contact with me. Now, another very important thing to prepare yourself in case the runner does come across the bag is when I open up, I catch, and I step the throw to first base, you can see how my toe and my knee are now facing first base. That's very important. Some second basemen will make the mistake is they will catch and they will turn to throw, and now the side of their foot and the side of their knee are facing first base and therefore the runner. So it is much safer to get hit by a runner if your toes and your knees are facing the runner. If he does hit your leg, chances are your legs will just buckle and you will fall on top of the runner. If I am sideways and that runner hits the side of my leg like this, I can do some serious damage to my ankle, and I can do some kind of career-ending damage to my knee as well. So when you do catch and you open up the throw, make sure you are pointing that toe and your knee directly at the runner. Chances are he's not going to get you if you're behind the bag, but again, your safety is your responsibility. Make sure that toe and your knee are always facing the runner. Now, the second option for a second baseman is to go to the bag like I mentioned before, left foot on the bag, position yourself behind second base, away from that runner. But instead of waiting for the ball to come to me, I step to the ball. I will step with my right foot to the ball when it's being fed to me. Now, this is a play that you'll often see when a throw is coming from a far distance. Third baseman might backhand this ball, or the shortstop may have to go on the hole and backhand it, and he can't really give you as strong of a feed as if the ball was hit right at him. So far throws, or throws that you're not getting a lot of speed on it, this is one where the second baseman should try to get to the ball sooner, which means he's going to step to the ball. Now, stepping to the ball not only gets me the ball sooner, but it's also going to get me out of the baseline. So if I get to the bag early, put my left foot on the bag, and the throw is coming from third base, I can step to the ball. Now when I catch and throw, I am out of that baseline. And once again, my toe and my knee are facing in that direction in case the runner were to veer off to the side and try to get me. Okay? So farther throws, step to the ball. It not only gets you the ball faster, but it's another way to get out of that baseline so the runner has less chance to get you. Now, the last method I'll talk about today for second baseman is stepping back off the bag. Now, I mentioned prior that if I set up my feet and I get to the bag early, if the throw is coming from a far distance, it's better for me to go to the ball so I can get the ball sooner and get out of the baseline. But how about a play where the shortstop is, the ball is hit to the shortstop and he's going to his left? And so he's moving towards second base. In that situation there, if the shortstop is coming towards me, I don't really want to complicate the matter more by going towards him. So I'm really cutting the distance between us very quickly. And any type of a bad throw, underhand or a little flip from the shortstop, quite often is going to handcuff me because there really is no distance between the shortstop and the second baseman. So if the shortstop is coming towards you and wants to give you one of those underhand tosses, or even if a third baseman is going far to his left and it's coming at you pretty hard and fires one to second base, it doesn't make a lot of sense to go towards him because that's already a tough enough throw that's coming at a rapid speed or converging in terms of the distance like I mentioned before. So quite often on this one here, the second baseman will see the fielder coming towards him and not want to go across. He will choose to step back off the bag. So once again, if he gets to the bag early, he can set his feet and prepare for any type of adjustments he needs to make. So on this one here, if he recognizes the shortstop's coming at him or the third baseman's coming at him, he doesn't want to go across, he's going to catch and step back. So in this one here, the second baseman's going to want to keep his right foot back more, and really once he keeps his right foot back, he's going to keep that right foot planted. The ball comes to him, he's going to catch, step back, and then make the throw to first base. So he really keeps that right foot still. All he's doing is stepping back off the bag and making that throw to first base. Once again, pointing that toe and that knee at the runner in case contact is actually made. Okay, so those are the basic footwork techniques for shortstops and the second baseman, and that all has to do with getting out of the baseline so that if the runner is coming in hard, you are not in harm's way, or at least it'll be tougher for that runner to come and get you. Now the next tip I'm going to give is to try not to stop moving as much as possible. Now this is much easier to do if you're a shortstop than it is for a second baseman. As you saw when I was setting up as a second baseman, whether I'm catching the ball on the bag and turning, stepping across and turning, or stepping back and turning, I'm pretty much staying right in this area. So this is why turning a double play is always going to be a little more dangerous for the second baseman, because he really doesn't have a lot of opportunity to move so much based on the throw and his footwork. So I'll come back to that one a little bit. But a shortstop really has a very good chance of always moving through the bag. And it's a simple fact of it is going to be much harder to hit a moving target than it is someone standing still. So once again, if I can get to the bag quick as a shortstop, I can set my feet, and then as soon as I see that throw coming to me, I can quickly and aggressively move right through that bag, get the ball, turn and throw, and I'm never staying in one place. I never stop. I never want to try to come to the bag and stop and stop and stop and then get going, because a stationary target is going to be an easy target for a runner. So when I come to the bag, I want to try to keep moving so that that runner has to try to hit a moving target. So not only will it get you out of the way of the baseline there and the base runner, but it's going to keep you moving. And as I said, a moving target is harder to hit than a stationary one. So second baseman, you can apply this as well, a little bit as much as you can by coming across the bag, coming back off the bag, doing some things to try to make sure you're not a stationary target for that runner to run into. Okay, the next tip here is basically for second baseman, and it's a tip that I don't see a lot of second basemen do, even at the higher levels. One of the things that a lot of second basemen will do is they will tend to gravitate towards one set of footwork, and that's the one they stick with. There's some second basemen who just love, regardless of the situation, to position themselves behind the bag. There are some second basemen who love to come across the bag on every play, and there's even some second basemen who on every play would rather step back and then make that throw to first base. They're comfortable with it, it works, they're quick, they're efficient, they've practiced it a lot, and that's the one they go with. Now, if you're a second baseman and you fall into that category of you generally gravitate towards one type of turning a double play, here's something to pay attention to. And that is your pregame infield practice. Most high school teams, even college teams, before a game will go out there and they'll take a full infield outfield practice prior to the game. Now, I was with the Minnesota Twins organization and they made us watch all the infield practices prior to every game. And one of the things I was taught to look for as a base runner was where the second baseman goes on double plays. And what you'll find is, like I mentioned before, a lot of second basemen will gravitate towards one type of double play. So in infield outfield practice, I might see that other team's second baseman always come across the bag in order to turn all his double plays prior to the game. So guess what? I'm on first base, a double play ball is hit. Where's that second baseman going to be? He's going to be right here, because every double play he showed us prior to the game in practice and in infield practice, he ended up right here. So that gives me a runner an advantage, because as soon as that ball's hit, I can put my head down and run straight for this spot, because I know that's where he's going to be. So smart second basemen, even though they may like to come across the bag when it's for real in a game, in practice, especially pregame, I always recommend second basemen try all of these methods. Come across the bag for a couple, stay behind the bag on a few, come back off the bag on a few. You're sending the message to the other base runners that you're not going to know where I am until I do the play. Because I've shown I can go across, I can go behind, I can step behind the bag and use the bag as a barrier. I can do any type of footwork. So in this case here, if I don't know where the second baseman is going to be, as a runner, I'm going to run straight to the bag and then try to figure out which direction he's going. And he, of course, is going to have to hesitate. He can't be as aggressive because he doesn't know where I'm going to be. So when you're especially in pregame infield practice, make sure if you're a second baseman, you are showing that other team all the variations of your footwork. In the game, go ahead and gravitate towards one that you like and that you're most efficient in. But in practice, when everybody's watching, show every method you have so that that runner is not going to be as aggressive coming in when it comes down to the game time. Now, my last tip for the middle infielders is don't try to be too tricky. And when you watch ESPN and you see their highlights, you see some incredible plays from middle infielders. It's just amazing what they were able to do. And some of the stuff that they do, you just can't teach. They just pull it out of their pocket and they make an incredible play, incredible turn that you wonder if they even practice that. But as a middle infielder, especially if you're young, you want to try not to be too tricky around the bag. Because quite often when you try to be tricky, quite often you are opening yourself up to some danger, okay? So my point is, master the fundamentals. Get to the bag soon. If you're a shortstop, get across the bag. Keep moving through the bag. Don't catch the ball over the bag. Catch it over here. If you're a second baseman, get to the bag soon. Set your feet. Show the opposition all the various moves. Stick to those fundamentals, and you will be much more safe under those conditions than any others. And try to avoid that temptation of being tricky, because inadvertently sometimes if you're trying to be tricky, you might be putting yourself in a dangerous situation, because typically you're messing up your normal footwork and you might even get yourself caught in the baseline or off balance, and then when that runner gets you, you're not in a very safe position. Now, my last tip is actually for coaches and first baseman. Now, these two people can work together to help out your middle infielders. And quite often, if you think ahead a little bit, and especially if you know the runner on first base is fast, if you know he has a history of being aggressively sliding into second base, then you can take some steps to help your middle infielders. If you're a coach, put on a couple pickoff moves to first base. Try to keep him as close as you can to first base. Obviously, even if it's a half a foot, if he does not take as big of a lead, well, as everybody says, baseball is a game of inches. And so if I can cut his lead by a half a foot, well, that's a half a foot longer it's going to take him to get to second base. And that little few inches can help my middle infielders get out of his way and possibly turn a double play. So as a coach, if you're worried about guys coming in second base, put on a couple pickoff moves to first base. That might actually close that distance just a little bit on his lead and help your middle infielders. Now, probably where we see the most chances at a middle infielder getting blown up on a double play is when we have a first and second situation or bases loaded situation and the first baseman is not holding the runner on at first base. The runner can get a huge lead, and of course if we have a slow grounder to one of the middle infielders, that runner is going to be at second base in no time, and that's where we see a lot of the contact made. So in that situation, if you're a first baseman, it's not a bad idea to creep up behind that runner and let him know that I'm not going to let you take that big of a lead. You may not say, well, that situation doesn't call for that, but again, if you're thinking ahead, your first baseman can help your middle infielders be a little safer at second base. And again, cutting that lead maybe by a foot, maybe 2 feet, and again, any little bit of a delay that it's going to take him to get to second base, that's going to help your middle infielders be safe. So coaches, first baseman, a lot of other people on the field can help middle infielders if they think ahead and not allow those runners to get as aggressive of a lead. Okay, folks, so there is part 2. So part 1, I went through the explanation of all the ways I can think of as to why a slide can cross over into the dirty range. The second part of the video talked about the prevention. Gave a lot of tips for middle infielders on how to get to the bag, how to position their feet, using different movements, staying in motion and not staying still. I also talked about some of the things their teammates can do to keep runners close. And of course, coaches, you have the dual rule that in the game, hopefully you're putting on some pickoff moves. And even most importantly, coaches, now that you're watching this video, when you are setting up drills during practice time, force your middle infielders to do the footwork correctly, build that foundation and the fundamentals so that their footwork is good, they're coming across the bag, they get to the bag soon, they know about double play depth. Putting all those little things together is going to help your middle infielders be safer, whether or not the runner comes in straight like he should or wigs out and goes after your fielder. It doesn't matter because your infielders have been taught the right way. They're preparing for the worst, and if they do get a runner coming after them, chances are still good that they will remain safe if you have taught them the correct fundamentals. All right, everybody, so that's going to wrap up the video. I hope you learned a whole bunch. If you have any questions about what you heard today or have any additions to things that I didn't mention, certainly feel free to pass them on to baseballbytheyard@gmail.com, and I'll be glad to respond to that and possibly put any of your comments in a future video. That's how I learn too, by sharing things with other people, and I'm constantly learning new things as well. So if you can shoot something my way, that would be great. Quite often, that's how I get ideas for posts and videos. So until next time, I'm Coach McCreary. Be safe out there, middle infielders. Protect yourself, keep working hard, learn those fundamentals, and I'll see you next time.